I also think from a sports science point of view, we're going to be, elevated and looking into ways that we can analyze not just what an athlete is doing, how they're getting from A to B, but how they're doing it, the biomechanics, the kinematics. And I think that's where coaching and having a really clear process on how we improve certain key landmarks for a certain skill, whether that be kicking, sprinting, accelerating, jumping. How can we influence the environment to make change on those areas? But whether it's view motion or speed sig, I think there's going to be more and more technology that's going to be focused on this area about how the athlete's moving, particularly in return to play. I think PhDs and placements are going to come back. COVID, they took a bit of a hit and a lot of programs were put that on stop. But I think individualization, I'll touch on that a bit later on, is only getting more and more important, and athletes are demanding it. So, and they've already experienced it, so they're going to want more of it. So having some PhD and placement interns to alleviate some of the hands-on work to allow more experienced coaches to individualize, I think is going to become a big thing. So if you need experience, make sure to reach out to organizations as there may be some opportunities popping up. That moves on to the next one. I think understanding tactical periodization now with field sports is critical. You're hearing more and more now, particularly in AFL, that match play is coming in earlier. I think I heard some clubs do a match play in early December, maybe it was even late November. So probably wasn't late November, it would have been early December, but certainly pre-Christmas, where before it was something that was sort of built up over January, February and peaking in March, getting up for preseason games. Obviously the competitive season is getting longer now and the preseason time is less. So we're doing more specific training because we've got less access for the athletes. So therefore, private sector work in the off season is probably going to ramp up. Athletes are going to recognize that they need to maximize that time to get themselves ready for the game because preseason is getting more specialized and more demanding. Individualization, as I touched on earlier. So the ability to profile, and that's where the sports science comes in, speaking with the coaches comes in, that holistic approach, speaking to the athletes. How can we individualize this program that takes into account their maturation, their injury history, their position, and their physical attributes? How can we enhance their weapons to maximize their performance for the year? So it's, there hasn't been a one-size-fits-all program for a long time, but probably it went one-size-fits-all old school 20 years ago. Then it went way too individualized, too sports sciencey, and everyone had their own program, and it was too complicated. It didn't flow in sessions, and athletes didn't get that ability to lift and compete with each other and train with each other. Then there's a recognition. So keeping things simple and grouping them and profiling them and bucketing them into groups, whether it be you're fast and unfit, you're, fast and fit. Like you could have a conjure from a conditioning point of view. You could have a breakdown from those that are really strong, but perhaps lacking that rate of force development from a strength profiling, or perhaps that those that are really good with their reactive strength from a contact with the ground point of view, but they're not maximizing their projection, their height, or their horizontal distance. So you're working more on force capabilities. So you can just start to bucket these different groups from a strength and conditioning point of view, put programs in place and allow athletes to feel that not only is it in their availability from an injury, medical history point of view, screening point of view, but also their performance is being taken care of. And then lastly, I actually just had a recent masterclass with Liam Purcell, who's running a new business for strength and conditioning coaches, sports scientists, and we did masterclass on AFL periodization. And I think that just brings to light that, he's mid-20s, studying his masters of physio as well as playing football at VFL level. I think that just speaks volumes in that the future S&C is going to have a side hustle. They're going to develop their own safety blanket, so to speak. And I think that's something that's just going to set you up whether you want to work in professional sport or in the private sector that's just growing exponentially in Australia. So if you haven't thought about that yet, perhaps it's a perfect time while you're studying to start your side hustle and just think about the private sector, because you can gain some coaching experience, but also it can be quite lucrative as well, which is really critical. So early on in your career, while pro sport is not bringing in enough money, so it keeps you in the game of developing yourself in professional sport, but also allows you to perhaps have a fallback when professional sport doesn't work out or you're in between jobs.